The crowded cafe seemed ordinary. Voices buzzing, cups clinking, and laughter floating in the air. But when she reached across the table, her sleeve slipped back, revealing a strange tattoo no one had ever noticed before. Within minutes, her life shifted from quiet anonymity to the center of a dangerous secret that tied her to a world she had sworn she'd never touch. The cafe smelled of roasted beans and fresh pastries, the kind of place people went to forget the world outside. She sat by the window, a notebook half filled with grocery lists, errands, and reminders scribbled across the pages. To anyone watching, she was just another face in the crowd. A civilian with no secrets, no danger, no reason for anyone to notice her. But the truth was waiting, hidden beneath her sleeve. For years, she had kept it covered. A simple mark, etched into her skin when she was far too young to understand its meaning. To her, it had become background noise in her own life, like a scar you stop noticing after a while. Yet, that morning, in the most ordinary of places, the tattoo revealed itself. It happened in a flash. She reached for her cup, her sleeve pulled back, and the stranger at the next table froze mid-sentence. His eyes locked on her wrist, and in that split second, the cafe's hum seemed to vanish. The design wasn't decorative. It wasn't trendy. It was sharp, geometric, almost military. The kind of mark you didn't stumble upon in a tattoo parlor. The stranger knew it, and now she knew that he knew. Her heart raced. Why was he staring? Why that sudden, almost fearful recognition? She tugged her sleeve down quickly, but the damage was done. For the first time in years, she remembered the night she got it. A night clouded in half-truths, shadows, and promises she didn't fully understand. A night that seemed buried in her past. Until now. Outside, traffic carried on. Inside, the stranger rose from his seat, left his drink untouched, and walked out without saying a word. But his eyes told her everything. The world she thought she'd left behind had just found her again. That night she couldn't sleep. Why would they? It was just a mark. But deep down she knew better. The truth began years ago when she was barely 20. She remembered the underground room. The dim lights, the silence heavy with expectation. A man she never knew by name, only by the way others stood straighter when he entered, had guided her through a ritual. Not mystical, not religious, but something older than either. Something secret. The tattoo wasn't chosen. It was assigned. The shape carried layers of meaning. An arrow bent into a circle, intersected by sharp lines that looked abstract at first glance. But she had been told what it stood for. Loyalty, silence, and initiation into a network that had no public face, no official name, and no forgiveness for betrayal. She hadn't wanted it. She hadn't wanted any of it. But that night she had no choice. The people around her weren't strangers. They were the only family she had at the time. And family, when you're desperate, is hard to walk away from. The ink burned into her skin, the pain searing deeper than flesh. The man leaned down, his voice a whisper in her ear. Once marked, you cannot unmark yourself. This isn't decoration. This is allegiance. For months she tried to play along. Meetings, coded messages, and training that blurred the line between survival and indoctrination. But she was different. She didn't belong in their world of shadows, secrets, and constant paranoia. So one night she left. No goodbye, no explanations. She vanished into a civilian life, slipping into a new city, a new identity, building walls of normalcy around herself. Grocery lists, work shifts, coffee shops.
Acquis existence.
But the tattoo had never vanished with her. It was there, etched into her skin like a signature, waiting for someone to recognize it. And now someone had. The memory of the cafe lingered, but something heavier gnawed at her. If that stranger recognized the mark, others would too. It wasn't just about being noticed. It was about being found. Her past hadn't just caught up with her. It was hunting her. The next morning, the world already felt different. Her small apartment, once her safe haven, suddenly seemed exposed. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of headlights outside the window made her pulse quicken. She kept telling herself she was imagining things. paranoia creeping in because of a single glance in a cafe. But deep down, she knew better. By midday, she had proof. Her phone buzzed with an unknown number. Normally, she would have ignored it, but something compelled her to answer. A voice, calm, controlled, too deliberate to be casual, spoke a single phrase. "You shouldn't have revealed it," and then the line went dead. Her hands shook as she set the phone down. No one outside the network could have said those words with such certainty. It wasn't just recognition anymore. It was confirmation. She'd been found. That evening, she noticed a black car parked across the street. The windows were tinted, the engine running, but no one stepped out. She pulled the curtains closed and tried to steady her breathing, forcing herself to think rationally. Run? Stay? Call the police? None of those options felt safe. The police wouldn't understand. Worse, they might even be compromised. She knew how deep the network reached. Running had worked once, years ago, but the mark on her wrist made anonymity impossible. Her only option was to confront it. She sat at the kitchen table, rolling her sleeve up, staring at the tattoo as though it might answer her questions. Why now? Why after all these years? She traced the lines with her fingertip, and then something caught her attention. A detail she hadn't noticed in years. The ink wasn't fading like normal tattoos. If anything, it looked sharper, darker, as though it had been freshly carved. She leaned closer. The mark wasn't just ink. It was a symbol that carried weight, authority, and perhaps a command. As night fell, the quiet of her apartment shattered. A knock at the door. Slow, deliberate, not the kind of knock from a neighbor or delivery. Her breath caught in her throat. Whoever it was knew she was home. And as she stepped toward the door, every instinct screamed at her that her life as a civilian was over. The mark had called her back. Slow, deliberate, not the kind of knock from a neighbor or delivery. Her breath caught in her throat. Whoever it was knew she was home. And as she stepped toward the door, every instinct screamed at her that her life as a civilian was over. The mark had called her back.